Bradley's going to see what's going on with them, okay? So we have a full agenda today. So, Johannes is gonna come up here and start talking to you about I-9 E-Verify. I'm gonna talk to you about HR deadlines and just how crucial those deadlines are to us and why we have them. We're getting to begin the start of the fall term. I know summer's here, but fall's here too, because we're gonna start hiring our graduate assistants for the fall term. We're gonna talk about letter of appointments, some termination issues, graduate assistant process, common EPAF problems, and question and answer time. We were gonna have the petition process, but Judy, from the grad school has got a family emergency, so that's gonna be postponed until next Wednesday, when we're gonna go over the GAU contract, so more to come on that, okay? So we're gonna get Johannes up here. Okay. Oh, yes, it is. It sure is. Let's see. Where did he go? Where did he go? Oh, Lord. You know what? I can start mine. He went someplace. There you go. All right, we got it. In there. It's in doors. Huh?
Late as usual. With the spread across campus.
There it is. No. All right, so Johannes is gonna start. Is that it?
Yeah.
Got it? Okay. They told me to sit down. I do a professional development for them, okay? Let them be the show today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Johannes Stracer. I work in recruitment and staffing. You guys may also know me by John on my EPAPs. We have a two-piece presentation for E-Verify and Form I-9. I'm going to do the presentation piece, and then Jeff Duran is here to assist me, as well as take some Q&As right after. We're going to have maybe a 15-minute Q&A, anything related to your needs pertaining to E-Verify or I-9. And then at the end of their presentation, we also have extended period of time to take some more Q&As if needed. So to start off, E-Verify, we're going to touch base on the background, the purpose, method of this madness, why we should be concerned because we are a federal contractor. We have a responsibility to make sure we stay in compliance with this document as well as within E-Verify. We have financial ramifications. We have some data for current overall UF numbers relating to Section 1 and Section 2 late submissions. Some really interesting stuff right there that you'll be able to see and relate to the financial ramifications to see how important this really is. And then we'll wrap up with the workplace enforcement within E-Verify and talk a little bit about our fiduciary responsibility. Then I'm going to do a brief little overview of common mistakes we see within Section 1, Section 2 on the form and within I-9 management. And then we have a couple case studies that we're going to interact or ask you, the audience, to see if you can catch some mistakes that relate to a specific case as well as a form that we completed to see if you guys can catch that. So we'll start with the background and purpose. I-9, that was mandated back in 1986, is required by all employers throughout the United States that an employee must complete a Form I-9, either paper I-9 or electronically. Most of you guys are familiar with GatorStar. Employees complete that. Permanent residents, United States employees, or citizens, sorry, complete that. Foreign nationals are the ones that complete it manually, paper I-9. So what that is exactly is it's basically taking whatever the employee completes in Section 1 and the employer completes in Section 2. It just takes and runs that in the E-Verify database to make sure that Department of Homeland Security as well as Social Security Administration, there's no discrepancies with that information and that the employee receives an employment authorized result. And this is very critical because we are a federal contractor. We have grant monies that we received, and within grants we have an E-Verify clause that it states that all employees must be E-Verified. That's why it's very important, and you'll see in the next slide, that financial consequences relate to errors and late submissions, which we could get fined if audited, but also we do have research fundings that could be put into jeopardy if we are also audited and we're not E-Verifying employees. So it's very serious. The next slide, you're going to see financial ramifications. Earlier this year, United States Citizen and Immigration Services put out an article stating that the fines and penalties went up between $200 to a little over $2,200 per I-9 form, which means this includes errors as well as late submissions. It's a massive amount of money for just one I-9 form. And of course, if there are fines assessed, the departments will be held financially responsible for such fines. These numbers, I'm gonna let you guys take a moment to digest these. These are pretty serious. Our manager, Cynthia Mendoza, I believe she had mentioned our percentages back in the April HR forum. I wanted to include the actual numbers between this 12-month period of March 2017 to February 2018. And if you just do, there was an article by United States Citizen and Immigration Services that said that the average fine that an employer sees is right around a little over $1,800. So if you take that amount and times it by a little over $3,400 or $2,900, you're talking about millions of dollars within just late submissions. So just let that sink in how truly important that is. Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, and I was just going to say, it's safe to assume that Section 2 is late because Section 1 is late originally, correct? So a lot to do with that first interaction with the...
It can be. Section 2, typically what we've seen, the employee has completed their piece. However, the employer, the HR representative, whoever is in charge of completing Section 2 in I-9 management, E-Verify, maybe just hasn't gotten around to it. Or the employee, what we see a lot, the employee has failed to bring in their documents. And we, as you'll see shortly, we can't accept any photocopy documents. So that gives the employee, typically we see a high number of students because they don't have the actual document, maybe in a different state with mom and dad. That's why it's prolonging us, the employee or employer, the HR representative, to complete Section 2. So it's a little bit of both. Workplace enforcement. Again, earlier this year I read an article that the Department of Homeland Security has announced that they're hiring a lot more auditors, and they're upping the audit process. They want to increase it by 4 to 5 times. With the new White House administration, they're really trying to push things, and I believe they're trying to make this a requirement by all employers. Right now it's just an option. A lot of employers, I believe, it's a little over 1 million. There's a lot of employers throughout the country that already opt in and do E-Verify, but it's not a requirement. But because we are a federal contractor, we are required. Again, employees must complete Section 1 on or before their first day. I see a bit of confusion sometimes. Mostly, a lot of people, if you're familiar with this process, you know you have a 3-day window to get Section 2 done. A lot of people may confuse that with Section 2 within a 3-day window. They may think that Section 1 can be completed by that mark as well. It's actually false. You need to have the employee do it by their first day. Before is fine, but if they start today and they're here and they're working, have them take a break, take 15 minutes to do the Get or Start packet, or if they're for a national, it's a paper I-9 form, it really takes 5-10 minutes at the most. It's very important. And of course, Section 1, if it's not completed, or if they have failed to bring in their documents within 3 business days, they cannot continue to work. And that's where we need to step in. whoever's in charge, supervisors, HR representatives. It's our fiduciary responsibility for the university as well as all the stakeholders to protect the university and make sure that employees cannot continue to work because we're not in compliance with the requirement. And a lot of people, teams, we deal with teams in OPS, employees, employees, it's stated within the offer letter, there's a contingency that states, if they read it, they should be aware of it. OPS employees, if they completed the application, which they should have, it states it at the very end of the application, our requirement. Question?
What would be your suggestion for the main scenario that we have in our unit is typically the PI, the faculty member, doesn't inform the HR staff that they've hired this individual. So individuals start working and therefore we're required to pay them because they've been working. By law, we have to pay them. But then we're out of compliance automatically with the I-9 verification portion. So, I mean, what do you see as an alternative?
And we see that often. I don't know who needs to reach out to the PI you said, their supervisor, whoever it is, but we need to have an open discussion and let them know. They may not be aware of it, but we need to let them know that, and there's nothing we can do at that point because the employee has already started. We can't falsify documentation.
Yeah.
But they need to be aware of the situation and how serious it is because it affects the grant funding as well as, we could be assessed fines. Yes, ma'am.
To piggyback on what she said, I have the exact same problems with some of my directors and schools. Is there anything in the future that maybe HR is thinking of to maybe perhaps require a course to be taken for anybody that hires someone? Because it seems like a losing battle no matter what we do. It's years and years of, well, just make it happen.
There's no
Right.
repercussions.
And I'll
Correct,
speak for that,
exactly.
due to the fact that, yes, it's been years and years of miscommunication between PIs, graduate coordinators, and HR folks, because they may not be one and the same. In some little departments, they are one and the same, but others are not. So this is something that I have really been thinking about, and Judy and I have talked about it as well, we're in the grad school, and, my team have talked about it, that, maybe we should have a workshop directly for PIs and or the department chairs to talk about that. I know that at the Dean's Breakfast, there's talk about this kind of stuff, about getting people on payroll. And most of you know me, and I've been here for a long time, and those that don't, come whole term, I stress, my team will tell you. Because I can remember the days of protesting at Tiger Hall with grad assistants, and John can tell you, or they're protesting, they didn't get paid, and a lot of times it's because when I had to do analysis, and I've had to do analysis for the provost office to find out what happened. Why did the GA, why was this person 10 to 12 weeks of not getting paid? And 99% of the time is that person in the lab that hired that GA did not go walk down to Honey or to Dawn or somebody and say, oh, by the way, I hired somebody, did you know that? Did you know that? Do you know what I'm saying? And then we've got to scramble to get them paid. We've got to get them a social security number. If they're a foreign national, we've got to scramble. So yes, it's on my radar because I can preach to you because you guys are the HR people and there's some graduate coordinators here too. But then the faculty that's hiring our students and telling them that they're going to have an appointment or promise them, just like postdocs, we deal with postdocs. A lot of them are late as well. We've got to get to who's their hiring. So yeah, it's on our radar.
And then
Because I talk to you,
right.
and I don't blame you. When
Right.
it comes down to me doing analysis and everything, when I'm talking to other people in HR, I'm like, the HR departments are, I know most of you for a long time. You're doing the best you can because of what you know. Just like in the dean's office or shared services. If you don't know that someone is hiring someone in your college without being told, then how can you get the paperwork to us in a timely fashion? You just can't do it. So it happens, and it's been happening for a long time.
Right, and it's so serious. I always have the fear of one of my NRA GAs is going to be hired when they're not supposed to be, and they're going to lose their visa status. So it really is so much, it's even.
Or we
even
hire
more-
someone for a short period of time, and by the time we get the hire done, they're already gone. Has that happened to you? Yes, it has. It's happened to you. And then you're out of compliance. Because again, if you're the HR person, because the PI is not doing the I-9. If you're the HR person that's doing the I-9 to see the documents, you're way out of compliance. You're way out. But it happens. I think you had a question, Doris.
I have question that's not related to what you were just talking about, but to the I-9s. On the I-9s, backing up a little bit, you were saying that when you're hiring a person, and I know most of the time they require social security and driver license, they're two documents you like for us to use. But that I-9 also give us other options
Right.
on the back page that the person can use just to get them hired. If we go ahead and initiate the E-Pass based on those other documents, does that automatically move forward so the student can at least complete Gator Start? Because I have
That-
students
that
come
happen?
in,
I had to leave this to my Gator Star people, you know? Does that happen?
we have students come in and say, I'm working today, but I don't have my social security card, but I have another
You have other
document.
documents that's not
So
list
we can-
acceptable for list A or list B, right?
Yeah, we, legally, we cannot tell an employee what document to use. We can make suggestions, show them the list, how them choose. A lot of people, especially students, they're not unfamiliar with this, so you can guide them. If they do have another acceptable document, like a passport, a lot of students have passports, that will suffice for the license and social, so you don't have to worry about, or a birth certificate. Some don't have a social, but they have a birth certificate with their ID, you know.
Okay. So
What we
that-
find out too is our young freshmen coming in, our young students, mom and dad has not let them have their social security
Right.
card. It's in the bank someplace, okay? It's under lock and key because they're afraid they're gonna lose it, but then, you know, at some point in time, they're gonna be adults, right, and they need to have that card on them. Because we do need, you know, they may know their social security number, but you need to have, you know, you need to see the card. So that happens a lot with some of the analysis that I did. We didn't get the social security number or the card because mom and dad was in Miami and they didn't want them to have it, you know? And I'm thinking, they're going off to college, we need to let that happen. Any other questions? But yes, honey, we've got to figure out how this communication, it's just, the communication in the department is not getting to the right HR persons in a timely basis. And I found that out a lot doing an analysis in 2014. And I thought that, you know, going back, I know there's faculty meetings, I know, I've got a few HR people, I mean, Carolyn Braun's not here, and she's usually here. They go back and, you know, talk to their faculty and their department people and stuff like that, but I'm not sure how that gets down to the PIs. Your people who are doing it. Yes, Dawn? Dawn's here from engineering.
Would it be a possibility, because I know that there's always a lot of talk about the audit compliance and potentially getting audited on this? Is there a way to set something in place to where, right now, you start finding those PIs to give them the initiative to actually communicate? Because right now, there's no repercussion.
There's, we haven't had I-9 audits.
So is there something that the University of Florida can say, hey, well, every time you're late, you know, that's gonna be a certain charge?
We'll have to take that back to Cynthia.
Or,
that,
you know,
yeah.
something that would motivate them, because they're in the position where it's like, we have, you know, Piney in our office,
Right.
she works very hard to, you know, relay this to the faculty, and it's almost like it's just, we're putting this information out, but we're not getting anything back, because there's no repercussions, so they don't have the initiative to speak to one another and get it done.
I think that's why it would be on people's radar, because we have started thinking more about the I-9 issues in the last 6 to 7 months versus other times, due to the fact that the White House administration, different now, Department of Homeland Security, things that have happened in the last year or two, you know what I'm saying? So it's not a matter of when, it's, if, it's gonna happen. I may be retired, but it will happen, okay? And you know, maybe I am, because I've never been I-9, so maybe they'll make sure that I'm not illegal or anything like that. But, it's gonna happen. And I know what we do when we recycle the EPAFs, when my staff comes in. I know, you know, I don't work a lot with the teams and OPS side, but some of them I do. And if you look at the EPAF errors, it's the I-9. It's the I-9. And before we can approve at our level, we've got to make sure everything's kosher, because again, we're being held accountable that we have made sure that every piece of paper is, you know, dotted and crossed and everything like that, the signatures and everything. I mean, one of the biggest things that you know, sometimes when I do EPAFs and I'll recycle back is the birth dates on the I-9 for the signature of the person that's signing it. Hello here, you know? I mean, I know that they have to fill out their birth date, but their birth date goes in one section and the date you sign is down here. But then that's gone through the department, through level 1, and we catch it. So I know some of my level 1s are not here. Maybe they're out there in, Bradley, are we on now?
Yes.
My level 1s? this is where you need to be held accountable too. If you see that's wrong, you've got to kick it back too. Because what happens is when we kick it back, you guys, the originator of the EPAT, you get mad at us. We know that, okay? Don't be looking at us, girl. No, you get mad at us. Because again, it doesn't it bypasses level one, it goes straight to you again. So we apologize for that, but staff cannot approve something that's incorrect. They just can't do it. Okay, we're live now, everybody. So,
Any other questions? You got a question, Ellen?
I do.
Oh, Ellen.
With the paper I-9 for our distance hires, with the 3-day window, are we looking at the dates that they actually sign the document, or do we have a 3-day window to get that document back and entered within the 3 days?
Sufficing for section 2?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is for the paper,
It's
paper
3
I-9
days
with
from the
this
day that
time.
he started.
Okay.
Yeah, he may have completed that well before his start date, and he signed it, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as if he starts June 1st, as long as it's, or on a Monday, as long as it's done by that Thursday, you're fine.
But that's the entered, not necessarily the
Correct.
signature date.
Yes, yes. Well,
Okay.
there's two pieces. For a paper I-9, you
Mhm.
have your section that you need to sign and date, and that date needs to be within compliance, and then when you enter it, it has to be within that 3-day window.
Within the 3-day window as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry. With the NRAGAs, obviously some of them don't even come into the States until right before, say, fall, 8/16. They don't even get here until 8/15. And then they have to be here for 10 days before they can even get a social. So are there anything that you guys are considering when it comes to that for the GAs? Like, who's gonna be held accountable for that delay, or we have to keep them on that contract of 8/16?
You're speaking of foreign nationals.
Correct.
So the social, is that the only document that you're waiting for? Because they should have the other documents, correct? I mean, they're not going to be using their social for a document. You just need a social security number, which when you complete the I-9 within the I-9 management, if there's a little box, apply for receipts or something of that nature, which will place it not necessarily in the holding status, because that social security card is not being used as a document, but as long as if it's a J1, as long as they have those 3 documents, you're fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so I just know I've had some instances where I haven't been able to e-verify them because they have not had the documentation in time. So, I just was wondering on that because it can get a little gray on when
What
they start.
document would you be waiting on? Because they should have a passport 984.
Right,
They just don't arrive until like
They aren't
August
there yet.
25th.
right,
And
something like
and the
that.
GA contract starts August 16th, and then it's a
Right.
contract.
Right.
They're not, I mean, they start getting paid, And that's when we have to do late petition hires for late hires. We have to work with Judy and others on that, But our academic contracts are from 8/16 to 12/31, 1/1 to 5/15. And we know that, like you said, Jolie, they get here right beginning of fall
5 days
term,
after.
August 16th. I mean, we have some, and I love it when they do, they come in about 2 weeks early and they take care of everything, And that's why when you're hiring these foreign nationals, you need to indicate they've got to bring enough money, especially they're, coming into the country, they got to bring enough money, and to know that this is the steps that they need to take. And I know some departments, I can't remember who they are, about 2 years ago, they help their foreign students go to the Social Security office. I mean, they drive them down there, communicate with them, and do a lot for them because they want them to get paid within that 4 to 6 weeks. They
And the
want them-
tuition
Huh?
and the waiver.
And the waiver and everything, yes. And like I said, I know that there's talk about the foreign nationals going through Gator Start.
Yes.
But that hasn't happened yet, and that would be great when that does, because then again, when you do that EPAT, Gator Start, they know what's going on. I'm saying they can get that done. It's just, there's a lot of paperwork for, has a lot of paperwork for foreign nationals that have to either go through tax services as well. And that's when I cringe. That's when I cringe. August 16th, like, how many hires are we gonna have? How many foreign nationals do we have? Because at the end of the day, in September, I don't want anyone calling me and saying, we have not paid this many students. And my staff will tell you, we're okay. As we start working hours differently so where we can make sure we get those paid. Because I'm a stickler on any person that's hired at the University of Florida, I don't care, your student, OPS, teams, faculty, need to be paid on time. we need to be paid on time. They need to live too, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I give a suggestion?
Okay.
So when you guys came and talked to us, we said that we would try this in our office, and we've been doing this. So the two things that have been helping us try to crack down on the Gator Start, for obviously this is for U.S. citizens or permanent residents, right? If they are like OPS and they don't have like a set contract or offer letter, then we do go back to the departments and we kind of say, you know, hey, did the employee start working? Sometimes they start working. That's on them. But if they haven't, we kind of negotiate a little bit, keeping this in mind. They don't necessarily always want to know the back end about all of this, but we do, and we're accountable, right? So we do try to negotiate. And then the second thing is really big and a little tricky, but you can do it, is if you do have a contract, so like with oral offer letter, we will do kind of things in advance. So we can do for Gator Start purposes only and an EPAP and go ahead and send that in. So that way the Gator Start is ready for them. So when we are hiring people, they are doing Gator Start as a part of the hire. So it expedited everything for us in our office. Obviously, when you get to fall, you can't do it for every person, but if you can't avoid it, then we do, and it's been helping a lot.
But
Like
that-
right now, like we've gotten a lot of our requests already early, as we're supposed to. And so I've been communicating, you know, with people, if they're U.S. citizens or permanent residents, I've been sending those out for Gator Start purposes only, and already they've completed their Gator Start even though they're not here. So when they come, I'm verifying documents, I'm making copies. I'm not waiting for them to do the Gator Start. They're waiting on me to verify.
And that's what good.
Makes a
thank you
huge
so much,
difference.
because that's one of the big things that we see. You know, we've got a big initiative for faculty hiring this year. Okay?
Right.
And we know the flux of GAs is going to be hired August 16th, and the provost initiative as well coming on. Okay, so the biggest thing that when we're having our team meetings and so forth is that they've done the EPAP, but Gator Start hadn't been done.
Right.
You know, the Gator Start email's gone out to our GAs, but they're all, you know, they're probably not even thinking about it. That, you know, I'll just do it whenever. But we don't see those GAs. Your department people will see them, or your PIs, or your faculty, or your graduate coordinator will see them, is how to just get them jump started on that. You know what I'm saying? Yes, Jolene?
I started having meetings, like 15 minutes.
15
every
minutes?
2 weeks, payroll meetings, really. So there's a whole list of people that aren't getting paid, and if there's no name, that they're like, well, where's so-and-so, and who is that? That triggers.
It triggers that, yeah. But some of the departments, they may have only just one, well, you're in one department too. But I worry, where's chemistry? Chemistry's here. Where's chemistry? I know y'all do like 200 or 300, right?
Yeah.
Y'all have a lot of GAs that come in.
I can handle it.
You can handle, okay. I couldn't.
So is there a way to implement that suggestion of doing things ahead of time for foreign nationals? Because where we've run into the problem is in the spring semester, where the university's closed and nothing gets going
Nothing gets
until
going until we come
almost the
back.
semester starts, and then getting the foreign national in on time and getting them processed through the system can be a little troublesome. So can we do those types of things?
Yeah, I just write this down, that we just need to go back and talk with the team. Yeah.
So can we implement that type of thing as well, like get the EPAP started early, or is there things that are there things that we can do to help that along?
Yeah, you're Atlas, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And yours are mainly, your GAs are mainly 12-monthers, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, and we're gonna talk about EPAPs, and we want those, fall of EPAPs starting now. I know it's June, but the earlier we can get them in. Now, we can't do job edits just yet, because I haven't returned everybody from short work break for the 9-monthers, okay? Hopefully, we're gonna have an answer on that earlier next week, on when that 9-month GAs are gonna be returned, okay? But, you know, right now, and we're gonna talk about HR deadlines here in a few minutes, but right now, you know, this pay period, we're working on payroll for this pay period. We know that we've got some future ones already sitting out there that we're gonna get to, and we're gonna get to them. We won't get to all the August 16th, like, right when you put it in. So, you know, but at least that will generate that Gator Start, you know, to get those students or the GAs understanding that Gator Start has to get started. I don't know, your dean's office, VP's office. So we might need to talk to them to see how they feel about that, okay? So, you guys went to talk to them? I forgot what department you were in.
Shared service for class, yeah.
Yeah, your class, okay. yeah, we'll have to talk and see how you guys did that then. So, I will call you.
Oh, great,
I got
thank
your
you.
number.
To
Okay.
follow up on that question for foreign nationals, you're speaking about getting the ball rolling.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily, I mean, yes, you
Yeah.
get a jump start as soon as you can, but they're not gonna get Gator Start, so
Yeah.
they just send in the form, have
The
them
form,
complete it as
yeah.
early as possible.
I'm not
and
sure
then,
how long it takes
you know,
tax services to do their jobs.
Ooh.
I don't know how long. And I know, I hear from some people that it, you know, it could be sitting over there for a while, so I don't know how to get them jump started on that. I know there's a new.
24 hours.
Huh?
I've had tax people work back within 24 hours.
Have you?
Yeah.
I know there's a new, new Linda Orville, you know, because she retired. I have, and that's something I can bring up with him and Mike, to see how fast we can get these going. But then I do know that Brenda will recycle because something's not complete. So, and I don't know if that's something that I need to have that team over to discuss. What do you need for all that tax, Windstar stuff and that tax stuff? I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Yes,
I just submitted one for fall, and they called me and said, come back at the end of July.
come back at the end of July.
One of the staff people called me and said, dude, that's what she said. I was blown
End of
away too.
July, oh my gosh.
She
okay.
said they're still doing summers,
Wow, wow.
and I know that's not good news at all.
Okay. My sister.
Okay. Please do, please do, yeah.
Yes,
If the paperwork for section 1 is not completed, it says employee can't continue to work, so are we supposed to terminate them and then rehire them? Or are they on paid admin leave, or
Well, if they're
what are
working,
we supposed to do?
if it's the first day and if they're working, have their supervisor pull them in, hop on a computer and complete it. If they're foreign
Well,
nationals.
no, because my question, because I had an individual who came in and did their payroll processing, and it was a citizen. So I told him, you gotta do Gator Start. Well, the next day, he was on an airplane to San Diego for a conference, so didn't do his Gator Start till he came back to Florida. You know, and I mean, I can tell them till they're blue in the face, and they have access to a computer, they have access
sure
to
do.
email, but
They
I
have-
cannot guarantee they're gonna check their email. So what do we do with something like that? I mean, he was a week and a half late in getting his stuff done.
By law,
Uh-huh.
they have to be terminated. It
Yeah.
says it
So
specifically.
you want us to actually terminate them?
By law, yeah, and if you want to stay in compliance, we have to terminate. If it's a team's employee, it specifically states that in the option letter that they will be terminated.
I think situations like that, you need to let us know that, you know, send an email to the recruitment and staffing listserv, or to academic personnel, if it's academic personnel. I mean, I'm working on one right now from another area that we've got, been working as kind of out of compliance, that we're, at the end of the day, we may have to tell that person to get on the lab. You know, but we just need to know about that. But then again, you know, like you said, internet's anywhere. If they're on a plane, you know, or they get to the hotel, they can be able to log in and get to their Gator Start, right? It's, you know, it's like I tell somebody, well, do they want to do it? Do they want to get paid?
Right.
Right, Jolene? How
That's
many times
right.
have I told you that?
Want to get
I mean, you can hold their hand, you can sit there, but they are adults too. I know they're students for them, first and foremost. But when you're a team employee being hired or a faculty being hired, you know, you've got to do certain paperwork that needs to get done on a timely basis.
And sometimes the threat is enough. If you tell them that your law says you'll have to terminate their record
Mhm,
if they don't get it in, sometimes that kind of kicks it in gear. And a lot of times you can send that verbiage that if you don't have this done by law, whatever, and that kind of catches their attention more so than
It
just
shouldn't have to
asking.
come to that.
It shouldn't have to.
I like to use federal law specifically.
Right,
because that has a
exactly,
lot
yeah.
of-
Yeah.
Sometimes the threat is
That
enough.
scares the folks. Well, it does, okay.
You want me to wrap this up?
No, you go ahead, we got, yeah.
All right, and
Those are
one
very
last thing
important.
before we move, just to throw it out there, Cynthia Mendoza is in the process, she's working with training and development and HR to try to develop a training course held at our HR Services Center, maybe towards the latter part of this year, get that up and running as a resource to you all, new employees that may need some training for E-Verify 9.9. And as well as previously mentioned, we have been starting to do department visits, so reach out to Cynthia Mendoza if you do think that would be useful for your department. But to move forward, we're gonna just summarize, it's required for all employees, research funding is tied to the E-Verify clause. departments are held financially responsible for fines if we are ever audited. And just remember that based on the previous, the numbers that you saw previously, there is definitely room for improvement for late submissions for Section 1 and Section 2. From there, I'm going to just jump right in, probably take 5-10 minutes if that, and then Janet will do her piece. But these are just some common mistakes that we see. We've already covered the first two. Just make sure if you are acting as the preparer or translator that you either check it or not check it. We see this more often with foreign nationals. If you do need to complete a specific piece or you are a translator, just make sure you check the box and complete that little box right below with your information. And then also, I think we previously went over it, if you don't have a social security number, you can still, you must still complete Section 2 and I-9 management. You can just check that box that they had to apply for. And that's for U.S. citizens or foreign nationals if they're waiting on a card to be mailed to them. You still must complete your part. Just make sure you just check it off, and then it will place it into a holding status. Yes?
Can you put NA in the social security box, even if you marked it? Because I know the NA is like super, has to be everywhere, it's not filled out, so.
I'm going to defer to you. Could you say that one more time?
Would you, if you don't have the social security number and they've applied for it, you mark that box, but then do you also put NA in the social security box itself?
On the form.
On the form?
We're waiting on the number. Do you?
You don't have the number, do you just put NA?
You just leave it blank
You leave that one blank?
until you have that number.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, in terms of assigning responsibilities, in my department, the hiring is not done by departmental personnel, but rather by shared services. So in that case, how do you, if there's a violation, who is financially responsible for the fines?
You're in office, right?
I'm sorry?
You're in office or, no,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's, Joanne Davis and I've talked about that. In fact, Mary Ann Morgan and Joanne has asked us to come over and do a kind of workshop for just that area with class services and stuff like that, because again, that's an office that's doing a lot of different things, HR, budget, different things, just like class, okay? But then, you're the graduate coordinator for your department, right?
Yes.
How are you contacting Joanne or Melanie and all them to do the hire paperwork? Are you taking a piece of paper over to them? I don't know, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how that works. I mean, for the class shared services, because I'm not a part of that, but I know some of the late hires that I've had to talk to Joanne about, because she's one of the class shared services director, is that we just found out from the director, or the program director, or the graduate coordinator, we just found this out. I'm like, 4 weeks later? They're like, yeah, they just brought us the paperwork, and you're not asking these people, you're not asking if there's any GA hires being happening or anything like that? I'm like, okay, we gotta talk about this. Yeah.
Okay.
Because, I mean, again, the department, the hiring authority, and that's not the shared services, they're just doing the paperwork, the hiring authority. Who's?
But if there's a delay, which is out of the hands of the department,
Right.
Because we tell the students,
Mhm.
go to shared services, which
Right.
is in a different building,
They were building, right.
And you say, well, it's up to them, but if for whatever reason,
We need to take that up with shared services and Mary Ann and Susan Hudson on how that process can be more simplified for the shared services as well.
yeah, because if they, for some reason, they missed the deadline or whatever,
Mhm,
then the department is responsible? Is that what you're saying?
Mhm.
Okay. that's
Yes, so it's something that, and they have asked that we come and do a general workshop about hires and the I-9 process for all the 67 counties as well. And all the people there in Fifield Hall and the shared services, because there's two shared services, correct? Yeah. They've asked that, so we're gonna be on a show, we're gonna be on a road show.
Groupies.
Okay, keep on going, we got plenty of time, don't worry.
Section 2 reminders. Most of the stuff we've already went over, verified documents. Again, please make sure that you must view, they call it an authentic document, the original document. We cannot accept photocopies if it's being used for the I-9. Make sure also it's unexpired. We do see that kind of mistake sometimes. And again, try to be diligent, whether you're completing a paper I-9 or entering it into I-9 management, make sure you're not transposing any numbers or anything with a name, document numbers, because that will throw up a red flag, and then Jeff or myself will have to correct it on the back end to make sure that it does come back employment authorized. And then also, we do see this, the last one right here, quite frequently. If you are completing a paper I-9, sometimes people will rush through it, complete the top portion, and then below in that certification box where you print your name and sign it, that's constantly left blank. If that's left blank, that could be a fine. So please make sure that's done. And then we'll just hop into 2 quick case studies, and then I'll throw the mic to Janet. Okay, so case study 1. There is problems within this, and then we have a form on the next slide that you can review to catch the problem on the form as well. So an employee has completed section 1 on his start date 1/1/2020, and he has an EAD card for work authorization, which he provided 1/10/20. The department has decided to wait until the employee receives the Social Security card before they even complete section 2. So from the audience, before we show you the form, there's a problem in the form, but there's a couple mistakes or errors.
For one, he can't start on 1/1 because the EAD card doesn't start until 1/10, so.
Well, it
Maybe
actually
start
says
working.
that
Technically, he provided it on that date, so you are correct, he's late. He should have provided that within that 3-day window to make sure we're in compliance for section 2. And then there's also one more.
1/1's a holiday, right?
Yeah.
But the contract says one
Right.
day.
Security card,
So it's
but
a-
you guys are saying that we don't have to wait to get the social security card for the I-9.
Say that one more time, I didn't catch the.
I said the department decided to wait until he got his social security card, but according to you guys, we don't have to wait to get the social security card to submit the I-9.
Correct. It needs to be submitted within that 3-day window. If they have applied for it, for example, U.S. citizen, it wouldn't affect us for national because they're not going to use it. It's going to be restricted. But if it's a U.S. citizen, if they're waiting for it and they're going to use it as a document, you just check that box off in I-9 management stating that they've applied for it, and they'll place it into the holding status, which will make us in compliance by the required time frame. And then jump over to the form. The employee completed this wrong, I assume. Do you see any problems with this? Again, he has an EAD card.
Well, you only do 1 or 2 or 3, you don't
Yeah,
do
you
all of
did
them.
all of them.
Okay, so that's 1. What else? There's a couple more mistakes.
Maybe number 4.
Correct, number 4.
The date's not on there?
And then mention-
Correct.
number of issuance.
Good job. And if they have an EAD card, obviously, just the first one within category 4. The last case study, the HR department at a small college starts a foreign national 1/1. The department, excuse me, is unsure what documents are required for this H-1B employee, not sure why Gator Star has not been initiated, and only has a photocopy of their passport. How can we help?
No Gator Start.
Yes, Gator Star. And these 2 case studies are problems or questions we get on a daily basis. So Gator Star won't be initiated because they're foreign national. What else?
And the H-1B takes, I think, a long time to get, so.
Hopefully,
No photocopy.
Correct. They didn't bring the actual passport, they emailed them a photocopy. And then the first part, they're unsure what documents are needed for H-1B.
Page 3,
Pardon?
page 3.
Have the H-1B.
For section 2 on the I-9, what is needed for H-1B?
I-797.
Passport, and there's one more. Correct, I-94, passport I-94. And then if we just take a look, there should be a problem. Is there a problem with this?
Number 4.
Correct. Yeah, so they completed it, except they left off the date, and that happens quite frequently. All right.
It's little things like that, that's not looked at by the department, then it gets bypassed by level 1. Or the shared services people that are, it gets bypassed by that, and then we've got to kick it back. Simple little things like that, just simple.
So my question is then, if we submit the EPAF for one of our foreign nationals and they don't have the social security, which is fine, but tax services will hold on to that, are we still no longer responsible for any audits? because tax service will hold on to it or tell us we have to wait until the social employee authorizes their employment.
Whatever they do on their end is completely different from I-9. So as long as the employee completes section 1 by that time frame and you do your part by that time frame, you're fine from that
Oh,
end.
but I can't verify them.
Yes, you can. You'll
Like
upload,
before
you'll.
national?
Correct.
Oh, that's
Because you're
right, that's
completing it,
paper.
okay, right now,
Okay.
you're gonna upload it, attach it, and complete. It's
Okay.
a longer process manually. That's why it'd be great, we can get them engaged.
So I can, yeah, so I can go ahead and do that but without tax services.
Oh, yeah, you please do, as soon
The
as.
I-94, or the I-9 you do
I-9.
in before you send for Winston?
If it's a foreign national and they're completing a paper I-9, absolutely, you don't have to wait. What they need to do on their end, which I'm unfamiliar with, but that has nothing to do with I-9 and E-Verify. Yeah. That's basically it. We still will have opportunities at the end for more Q&A,
Yeah,
so, Janet.
How come it's not showing? Jeff, what did you do? It's different this time. Okay. So I'm gonna do a little spill with you, and then Melissa's gonna come here and talk about things as well, as soon as it gets to my. I forget, I'm out there and. Brandon's gonna fix it for me. We'll start talking, because one of the things I want to talk about is the HR deadlines, and we do have HR deadlines for a reason. Because again, we have to make sure that things are met by our deadlines where we can start working at EPAP, okay? So the deadlines are found, of course, on the payroll and tax services website, and you need to download those. And we're going to encourage you to start working on those August hires now. You know who those graduate assistants are. You're supposed to know who those graduate assistants are if you're in HR. Those letters should have already gone out, and they've already accepted. They come back in the fall term. And we do know that there's different things that's going to happen in the fall term because we have our incoming new students under the Provost Initiative, which I'm going to talk about next week on the June 20th. And then they're going to be at a different rate of pay versus the grad assistants that are going to be at the minimum salaries that we have as well. So it's going to be very crucial for our HR folks, the originator, to indicate in the comment section of that EPAP what is happening. These are new PhDs, new rate of pay based on College of Engineering guidelines for new incoming PhDs, or is this amount of money? We're going to have that amount as well, but we don't know the brand new incoming PhDs. We just know that it's a hire, and we don't know they're brand new. We don't know that it's a Provost Initiative, and you're going to have to tell us, okay? But go ahead and start entering those 816 job actions now. Okay? So again, you know, everyone knows where the appointment letters are on our website. Use those template letters. I get a lot of phone calls saying, okay, I want to make some changes, or I want to add just some special conditions. That's fine, as long as you don't mess with the template itself, you know. But the first part is the effective dates by the academic year contract, August 16th, December 31st, 1/1, 5/15. In 2020, we'll have leap year, so it'll be 5/14. We have to remember that. And their title and their FTE and their money and so forth. And then you've got other things that are in that letter of offer, but I know some departments like to add a little bit extra stuff in the body about, you know, teaching load or any special conditions that that department or that college may have, and that's fine. Just don't go start messing with the template itself. Again, it's a contract, and it's under the GAU union, so if you go to that article, you're gonna see where we took the GAU contract and took that template that's in there and made our own template. FYI, there are some updates coming to it. I was hoping I'd have it by next week. It's just some little benefits thing, benefits and new links and so forth we've got to fix, okay? But we'll have it before fall term, okay? Changes to the letters. If you have any addendums to the letter, you've already sent them out, now they're gonna come, maybe the FTE is gonna be from .50 to another, FTE, still needs to be signed off, an addendum by the student and the supervisor. And we really need to know that that is the student that is signing off on it, okay? We get some that will say JNM for CLS, you know what I'm saying? Which is the initials for the student, and I did it, because, then when I call you, he was okay with me signing for him, okay, it's fine. But then, this has happened. The grad assistant will call me and say, I'm gonna get paid right. My letter says this. I'm like, no, your letter that we have on file that we got from your department says this. He goes, I never initiated that. So we've got to be very clear too, because then we, from HR, we're entrusting you guys, your HR people, to say that you're sending us the right documents, okay? Yes, Don?
Can we attach an email, like if we have an email correspondence between the student, they're unavailable to sign, can we attach that and just say, see attached?
As long as we have that as an email from the student that says that, I'll accept that, okay? Yes, Ellen?
Are you all allowing DocuSign for? You are.
Yeah. Yeah, we just started using DocuSign within, myself included, on nepotism forms and everything. So we've got to work that out, how we're gonna get all that done within my team. But
Okay.
DocuSign is out there.
Great, okay.
One
Yes.
thing, are other
Wait.
digitals, are other digital signatures permitted? Like Adobe Digital or?
That's something I wanted to add too. Sometimes with Adobe, it'll just put a signature with the script on it and the date, and it just really looks like anybody could have, put
Done that,
in
yeah.
their name, typed it in with
Yeah.
a script font. So it's really better to use DocuSign, which gives it a time and date stamp. As well as with Adobe, you can create a certificate with the signature that shows up with that time and date stamp, and that is acceptable.
Any other questions? Okay, so, I know I talked about this in the May workshop, but terminating appointments. Anytime that we need to change that appointment, or we need to end their appointment for any reason, such as failure to perform, misconduct, unable to maintain a satisfactory academic student status, if you're in question about any of that, please call us. We've had several this past semester, spring term, that got termed for cause that really were not termed for cause. There were other issues that was involved with that student, and their health insurance got kicked out, and some of them were foreign nationals, and we just had some repercussions from that, okay? So if you're in question that you've got to end them before May the 15th, just shoot us an email saying, I think we've got a situation that's going to happen right now. This is what's going on. Can you please call us? I'm on the phone calling you. I was talking to someone yesterday afternoon. I've got an answer for that person, and I'm dealing with one this morning already, and I'm going to have that answer this afternoon. Because at the end of the day, if we need to get rid of that student, we've got other offices besides my office. We got employee relations, especially if it's unsatisfactory performance or misconduct. We've got to get ER involved with it. But if it's medical, that could be a different situation, because again, it's a foreign national, they've got some medical issues, they need insurance, and we've termed them, and now they're sitting over in the emergency room with no insurance, because we've termed them. And that could be a repercussion, and then, so just let us know. Just contact us. Everybody should know my email. It's gonna be on this handout. So you can shoot me an email or call me. Email's better, because I'm gonna always sit at my desk. Yes, Rita?
If a student GPA drops below the requirement 3.0, how long do the department wait before they terminate a student? Especially when you email the faculty and students several times to get the petition.
So this is a question again too about the GPA. We do not know that in our area. So we approve the hire, we do job edits for you. but we do not go out there daily and do a report and say, oh, this GPA is 2.9, whoop, this GPA is 2.3, we gotta call Dawn, we gotta call Cynthia, we gotta call somebody and tell them, gotta get these people out, okay? I know the waiver system looks at that as well, so when the waiver quits running for that person, and you people call me and say, okay, the waiver's not running, I have to go out there to the waiver file and I'll see, oh, the GPA, it's because of a low GPA. Judy's not here today, so that's one of the things that we can ask next week. But this is, we're gonna be talking about this some next week, about the petition process, when you need a petition, how long, how far in advance, and the medical withdrawals, that we're gonna talk about that next week. But I wouldn't term them today if you know their GPA is 2.9 today, okay? I mean, something could happen, okay? This is you. This is Melissa.
All right, nothing new or scary here. We're just gonna do some review on hiring GAs. So the things you wanna make sure of when you hire a grad student would be their GPA is at 3.0 or higher. They are registered properly for their combined FTE, so they may have another assignment out there that you don't know about. Have a conversation with them, try and find out how many jobs do you have on campus, so that you know how their registration should go. You want to make sure that their proper title is chosen, so if they're teaching, the title should be related to teaching. If they're doing research, their title should be related to research. You also want to make sure that what you pay them meets the minimum salary. We have the minimum salaries out there on our website. All of this information is also on the Grad Catalog website as well. Okay, so anytime you want to waive a requirement, it requires a petition with grad school. So if you're hiring a grad assistant from like 0.01 to 0.24 FTE, you want to petition the grad school, and if it's approved, their registration should be for 12 hours and they won't have a waiver.
And again, June 20th, I have another workshop, June 20th, and we're gonna be talking about 8.4, a research lead, 4.9, okay, PROAS initiative, and Judy and I will have slides about petition process and about like the, having a secondary appointments and little things that we've seen the last year with petitions.
Okay, so steps for hiring your GA. You want to process the EPAF, make sure all of the proper paperwork is attached to it. And then once that is approved, you will enter their waiver and also their payroll distribution, make sure that they're getting paid properly from the proper source.
Now I want to say something about payroll distribution. So tomorrow is Thursday, and we close payroll. There's possibility that we will approve some late hires, and we try to get to late hires as possible as we can. But that person's not gonna get paid if that distribution is not done by a certain time on Friday morning. And some of the phone calls that I get from people saying, the student's not on my pay list on Monday morning, I'm like, we did our part, the distribution was not done. We cannot do the distributions for you, because we don't know what fund code you wanna pay that person from. So that's one of the things that communication to the right person that's supposed to be doing the payroll distribution. It may not be you, the HR person, that's doing the originator of the EPAC. It may be someone in the budget office is doing those distributions. I don't know, you know? But that miscommunication is in the department there.
Okay, so whenever we have them in the system, they've been hired, you may want to make a change to their pay or their FTE. Have to do a job edit EPAF and attach an addendum or a revised letter. So these changes could be anything from a rate change to change in FTE. And of course, with the changes in FTE, the salary change must be proportional. Okay, you may also do a change in title. So that may be going from doing research to teaching. So you would need to do an addendum and attach it to the job edit for that. If you are changing a salary plan from, say, student assistant or OPS to GA or GA to student assistant or OPS, make sure you do a higher EPAF and check leaving another job. Because when you do this, it can affect payroll, it can affect benefits, and many other things. So you want to make sure that you do it as a higher EPAP. It's just way cleaner to do it that way.
And a reminder, there's teaching titles that have to require international students to pass that test for spoken English. And Jolie's here, and I know I get copies on every one of those tests, and I do look at those test scores. And I have been known to call some of you departments that we need to get them out of the classroom because they're teaching and their test scores are below. Be very sensitive to that. Hi, Jolie?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so when you do make changes or you're doing your hires and stuff, please, please, please use the comment section on that EPAP to let us know what your intentions are. Because if you don't have those comments there, we don't know. We may recycle back to you and you're like, well, we wanted this, and then if I had known that, I would not be recycling it back to you. So please use the comment section. So some examples of what you can put in the comment section are a change in title, change in FTE, change in salary, change in the department ID, terminating before the end of the term.
And they give a reason why you're terminating for the end of the term.
Yes, and also, if you would put in the comment section that you have had the conversation with the GA and they understand that they are going to be responsible for the tuition and fees because it's terminating before the end of the term, that would be great, because I usually email or message somebody and say, hey, does Stephen know this is gonna happen? So if you'll put that in the comments, that would be very helpful.
Oh, I want to go back there. Especially on a fellow. If you're ending a fellowship payment prior to the time of that semester ending, and you need to stop the payment on that current fellowship because that fellowship is not going to pay out any more for that semester, let us know. We'll term, but that does not stop the additional pay from paying out. And we've had some fellowships that have been overpaid because we didn't go out there and stop the payments. So we've got to stop that. Then we have to do things with payroll. So just terminate fellowship appointment, fellowship has ended, no more payments coming out. Please cut the additional pay back to the state. That gives Anthony the reason to go out there and fix that. Yes.
And on the EPAP, you say we can just put in change in salary. And change in salary, do you have to always change to duties and responsibilities? Because sometimes the faculty might have bought the student in at the beginning rate. After the student's been working over a year, thinking the student's doing a great job, I would like to increase his rate.
Well,
Not necessarily changing his duties.
and that's true. We have some colleges that have maybe fall term and then come spring, there's a little bit of money. So they want to give all the GEs a little bump. So when you say change in salary, say change in salary, no duties being changed due to it's, the PI's got some extra money and we'll bump up the salary. Just something to let us know.
Yeah.
Because normally when we see a FTE change or a salary change, it's because something's happening. They're increasing it because of something happening on their duties. They're teaching more of a load, or they're decreasing their load, or maybe they're having some administrative assignment someplace in the department.
Sometimes it can
Again,
be
just think about, okay, you're getting this from maybe somebody, let's just take shared services, you're getting a message from someone that we want to increase someone's duties and responsibilities, so we're going to change their salary. That's an email that you understand. We're going to change the salary to this GA from 25,000 to 32,000. My first radar, for me, looking at EPAP, is like, what happened? So,
I can just put, we're doing a great job, a performance. Performance bond.
yeah, just, bumping up and
Yeah,
everything like that.
just, so something simple, I don't have
Just
to always
something
go in and do an old letter
No.
showing his duties was this, new letters his duties is now that, that's something they made
It's
up
just
with
that we
you,
need
may
to know
not be doing.
that this is something that has happened in your department, you know?
Okay.
So if that does happen, can you correct me if I'm wrong, but say a PI says, okay, I've got additional funding, I want to increase from 28 to 30,000, okay? Is it correct that down the road, they have to base their portion off of that new rate?
Yes, it is.
So it's not a temporary type increase, and they need
Right.
to understand and
They
budget
didn't understand that as well, and then they also need to understand that as a dean, the chair and the dean and others have approved that, you know, the PI just can't go be making that change.
Yeah.
Has it gone through
They
the
can
approval
revert
process?
back.
And that's where, if we see level one has approved it, like if you've initiated the EPAP, you've approved it, Dawn.
Yeah.
I know, in my mind, that's gone through Rob, and that's gone through everybody, that y'all are kosher, you're good with your GAs. But that FTE is at .50, and now you wanna drop this to .25, we're not gonna look at the original, salary, we're gonna look at that $30,000.
Yep.
That's what we're gonna look at.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, so I get this question a lot, and people want to ask what paperwork should be attached to the EPAC. So for U.S. citizens and permanent residents, this is the list. We need to see that notarized first page, notarized loyalty oath and intellectual property agreement. We need to see the I-9 support documents. And I do want to point this out. Social Security card, even though it is part of I-9 support documents that you may be using, such as driver's license and Social Security card, if they use like their passport as their support document for the I-9, still need to see that Social Security card attached to the EPAP because that is for tax purposes. And if it is a male, age 18 to 25, we want to see that selective service registration proof attached as well.
Are you gonna require females? Since they've now
No.
authorized females to sign up? Excuse me? Oh, wait, I'm past 25.
I don't know.
What do you mean?
They
I
have
did not know
signs,
that, okay.
they have signs saying that, women between 18 and 25 are gonna be required to sign up for selective service. So are you gonna require paperwork for them too?
We haven't heard, well, we will go and ask. We will go and ask. I mean, I know my niece hasn't, and she better sign up, huh?
Yes, sir.
Does UF follow the same guidelines as the federal government for recognizing driver license?
Yes, yes.
Because the federal government doesn't recognize the driver license for certain states. There are 6, 7 states that they don't recognize as a valid ID.
For the I-9?
No.
I hadn't heard that either. I had not heard that. What state, what's one of the states, do you know?
I know that Missouri is not recognized and Wisconsin is not recognized. I was a federal employee last year,
Really?
and there were some states that
We'll look into that.
We will look into that.
We'll look into that. Thanks.
Okay, so if a fellowship appointment is the only active appointment in job data, please let us know, because when you go to hire this person, when you put the EPAP in and there's nothing but a fellowship out there, it's not gonna initiate the Gator Start packet and send them that email. We have to go in and manually create the Gator Start packet for them. Okay, so for foreign nationals, this is the list of documents that we're looking for attached to the EPAP.
And I'll need to call tax services about their timelines to see, you know, because I will. I mean, I've got to call about another issue just because.
Yes, they can use DocuSign for signing their documents, yes.
Is everybody familiar with DocuSign? Everybody's familiar with it?
Will you recycle EPAP if we scan in a social security card and it's not signed?
No, I won't recycle on that, but you might want to ask them to go ahead and sign the social security card while they're there.
Okay, so they are still required to be signed, okay.
So I have a question with DocuSign. Is it considered secure enough to be able to hold social security numbers?
The question is DocuSign secure enough to hold social security numbers? And I think with our last meeting, the concept that we're talking about DocuSign.
Yeah, it's very secure, but
Because-
I have not seen any documents that have come through with SSN office.
Because if we're allowed to use it for this, there could be social security numbers on it.
Well, I just did a training the other day, they said no personal identifier.
Yeah,
Which would be like your social security number.
yeah.
So, yeah, so then I wouldn't recommend DocuSign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would recommend it then. So that-
There is something on cases called File Express.
I did,
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I do, I know. I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just getting familiar with DocuSign, and I will go back. Bradley, you'll have, you'll be able to send me a copy of the people who have signed up, right? So I can send out an email to everybody about DocuSign. I mean, I'm just learning it on the nepotism, but I know that we have not seen any DocuSigns coming through EPAC just yet, because it's just, everybody's just starting to use it and so forth, okay? So we're gonna have to get that cleared up, okay? But if someone, I would think not, due to the fact that, it's got personal stuff on there, personal information.
Okay, and going back to the social security card question, does it need to be signed? No, it does not need to be signed.
It do not need to
It
be
does
signed?
not need to be
Wait.
signed.
Okay.
So then how's it authentic? The form itself is authentic. It's just, it's not signed
They
by
recently
the owner.
changed that a few years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
If you order a new social security card, you'll see on the back, it used to say not valid unless signed, but
Right.
now it's
Now it
gone.
doesn't say that.
So as long as it's the original card and it relates to that person, that's all they mean by authentic.
Okay.
because a lot of them.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so here's everybody's favorite part about recycling. I used to work at the department level, I used to hate being recycled on, I thought it was punishment. But it is not punishment, we're just trying to help you understand what needs to be done with forms and what our expectations are. So, this is the way not to get your EFAP recycled, and these are reasons that we see a lot that we recycle on. So, first one is missing required paperwork or Gator Star is not complete. So, for GAs who have nothing but a fellowship payment, again, let us know so that we can create a Gator Star packet for you. Wrong job code, so it should match what's in the letter, and I see this a lot, because the letter will say they're doing research, but your EFAP will say they're teaching. They have to match. Incorrect comp rate, so it should be what's on the letter of offer or letter of appointment. You may have something different in the EFAP. Or if it was an FTE change, the comp rate is not proportional to the FTE change, so we will recycle on that. Combined FTE is over .50 for a foreign national, so I'll go out there and look at all the jobs they have on campus, and if your hire or your job edit sends them over .50 FTE, I'm gonna send it back to you, and I'll also try to get you in touch with the other departments so that you guys can work out the FTE for each of your appointments if both of you want to have this person working for you.
Next page.
Well, go back to the.
Go back, okay.
All right, the effective date is wrong on the EPAP, it doesn't match the offer, so maybe on your letter, you'll say have 1/2 of 2020, and your EPAP will say like 1/1, which is correct, so I may get you to change something, go ahead.
Well, let's have a question.
Sure.
Not that I've had that problem with you, but we initiated EPAP overnight, so I think it's Wednesday. I initiate the EPAP. Forward, the student's gonna fill it out. I know payroll is gonna, you guys, deadline say Friday. And it's gone through my level 1, they already approved it. Students still overnight hasn't been to Gator Start, and by Friday I get it back. Recycle student has complete Gator Start. How many days in between you let it sit out there before you recycle back for
I'll
students not
recycle it
completed
back to
Gator?
you, I'll recycle it back to you quick.
Oh, I know she is, Brandon is too.
I'll say this, there is no 3-day rule that we need to let it sit there in our queue for 3 days. And the reason that I send it back to you quickly is this, it's because if it sits there for days, and then I look at it and I see a mistake or something, and then I send it back to you, and the Gator Start is still not done, I would much rather send it back to you quickly and say, hey, this is missing, or there's a mistake here, or something like that, and have you go ahead and get them in there and get that fixed, and remind them about Gator Start, and then send it back to me when Gator Start's done, because I've already looked at it one time, and all I'm looking for is either Gator Start to be done, or that correction to be done, and I'll just approve it for you right away.
I'm saying about that part, but I'm just wondering just in general.
Yeah.
When everything on the EPAP is correct, and we just waiting on Gator Start.
Yeah, I'll send it back, because, sometimes out of sight, out of mind, so you're not gonna be reminding that person, so you can send it back into me. Okay.
Yeah, Terry?
I have a question. Okay, when I put an EPAP in, that generates a Gator Star. how soon does the Gator Start get generated? Because I've had a real issue with this lately, where I've checked and checked and checked and checked, and it hasn't come through, and, because I'm the type of person, everybody knows, that want it done, that I want it done 2 weeks ago. Sorry, but I didn't say that. So I put it in, and then I keep checking and checking and checking, because I've told the student of the Gator Start that it's coming. And I keep checking, and I just wonder what's the time period?
The email is sent out twice a day, so it depends on when you put that EPAP in.
Okay.
So there is
That makes
midday,
sense.
it's midday, and then like 6 o'clock in the evening or something like that.
Okay, so that makes sense. So it's
Yeah.
not like immediately after I put the EPAP in, which I would like, but that's okay.
So we appreciate you checking on that, and getting
Yeah.
the students on that.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
So what we do is
So now we know it does.
that I put in every EPAP for, like, my GAs for August, or every single one of them are put in right now currently. And my level 1 approver holds it. And that way it gets the Gator Start jumped, and then they don't have it sitting in their face either, so. We've done that ever since I started, and it always works out really well. So I don't even push, I'll tell Barb, hey, go ahead and approve now, because now I've got the Gator Start done, everything's attached, but it gives plenty of time for the students to be able to get everything.
And that's great, if level 1's want to hold them until Gator Start is done, that is perfect.
Yeah, that's what
Why
I
don't
would
just
recommend.
recycle them really quick on level 1, because they know you're not like being, they know they're recycling it just to get that Gator Start going. Then you resubmit,
Right, yeah, exactly, you could do that.
and then you get it without wondering,
My level 1 just doesn't, she just doesn't approve them. She
Right.
doesn't recycle them, she just holds it.
I think Carolyn
and
might
then-
recycle and then,
Yeah,
then we. s-
either way, it's a way
Either
to
way.
get that Gator Start initiated and not have to put it on your plate until it's completely done.
We usually in engineering will recycle them back. That way the originator, since the originator's the one that met with the student, will communicate with the student that, hey, you haven't completed your portion yet. You still need to go out there and do your documents.
And the students will also act like they didn't get the email, they don't have a Gator link set up, or it's all going to Hotmail in the old days, and they never got email from UF going hot, so
I have
there's.
tons of little email templates that say, hey, you haven't done this yet. Hey, you haven't done this yet. So I say, I stay hard on them, so I like everything done.
All right, we're gonna move on now to some others, like sometimes they'll send an EPAP through without a letter attached to it. You need to see the letter. Or the Form 1 form's not notarized properly. Or maybe for one-time payments, and this is something I see a lot, like your lump sums or additional pays, the effective date needs to be in the current pay period and not a past pay period, because for lump sums and additional pays, the system does not pay retroactively. And this, I've seen quite a few of these lately, the FTE should be 2 decimal places only, not .25255, but .25 FTE. And the reason is because PeopleSoft will round that FTE up, and then it will round up the comp rate with it. So that can mess up some people's budgets. And 2 more points that I really want to make before we close. Recycles do not come back to their place in queue once you send them back in. They go to the back of the line. So when you're working with corrections or trying to get somebody to come in and sign something, there's a lot of EPAPs coming in. So when you hit that resubmit button, it goes to the back of the line, and it's going to take some time for us to get to it. So we just want you to understand that. And also, there is no reason for any recycles if the HR originator re-reviews the materials and the level 1 approver reviews all paperwork, checking it against the EPAP to make sure that everything is correct.
Now, we have a few minutes for question and answer time. I know we went through a whole lot, and some of us will be here afterwards. I do have some things I gotta look into, and Bradley's gonna let me know who attended and who attended out there in Cyberland, so we can get some answers to you. Next Wednesday, June 20th, it'll be another hour and a half, and we're gonna be very intense with the Provost Initiative, Article 4.9, 8.4, that research leave. The GA benefits team and I in HR, we're working on a like an unpaid leave form for that research leave, because they're, based on Article 8.4, I've got some other people to look at it. Hopefully I'll have it ready. Praying we'll have it ready next week. Because I know right now I haven't got anybody that's saying that a student wants to be out on a one-year research leave, unpaid leave, but I know it's gonna come. We're getting that ready. And then talk about the provost initiative. I gotta get some things again from the provost office on that, as far as your money that y'all all went around and decided for fall income and PhDs, what their monies are gonna be, so that we're not recycling, okay? Again, indicating on that EPAT that is the provost initiative, is a new income and PhD student coming in, and they're the TAs, you know what I'm saying, that we'll know that if it's coming from engineering, if it's coming from class, if it's coming from CODA, if it's coming from DCP, we got a little cheat sheet, and yes, that money is, that range looks good, you know what I'm saying? Because all the others, we have to go by our minimum salaries. I want to thank Johannes and Jeff for coming and doing their I-9. I think they did a great job, and just, you know, a lot of us don't understand, or when we understand, we don't know how out of compliance we are on certain things. And when you see it in a PowerPoint, or you look at the numbers, it's like, whoa, wow, it happens, you know what I'm saying? We know it happens. I know communication in departments, the college office, it's you know, there's a weakness there. I mean, even to us, there's a weakness. And I just think communication needs to be made different to get these people paid on a timely basis. I mean, like you said, Dawn, earlier, the PIs. I know they're trying to get their research up, they're trying to get their labs going, they're trying to get everything done, they're hiring their postdocs, hiring their GAs, hiring their OPS, tempering people, but then again, they need to step aside and again, go up and march up to HR and say, hey, by the way, did you know I just hired a foreign national that's coming from France? And he's been working in my lab for 6 weeks and we ain't got it paid yet. Because then you know what happens? They want them paid right then, right? They want them paid right then, and then guess what? You have to do the work, right? You guys sit there and like figure it out and everything. So we're going to take a few questions if you have some. If not, thank you for coming, and we'll see you, I'm sure we'll see you next Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
Honey?
I just have 2 quick questions. The first one, are we still at max FTE for citizens, GAs at .77 and foreign nationals .50? Like, they can't have more than .77 if they have an OPS position as well as their GA, correct?
We're looking at FTEs. That's something Judy and I were talking about, and Dr. Duncan as well, because you know, a GA should be at .50. You know what I'm saying? Because again, they're here for what? Their studies. Okay, I mean, I get GAs that will call me like, why have you denied me not being a 1.2? Well, I'm sorry. You're taking a full load. You already got 2 GA appointments, now you want to go be hired as an OPS person someplace, okay? And what happens then, when I find out more about the OPS appointment, it's related to the GA work. They're teaching, or they're doing some type of research, and you just want to make that extra appointments, okay? So, and that's where Dr. Duncan, you know, has in the past, I would call him and say, okay, I've got this situation, and now want to be .78 or .90. What we have to be careful of is the waiver. Gotta be careful of the waiver on that, okay? Because, I mean, if you go look at the registration requirements and all that, you have to make sure that's happening. So, yeah, honey, we probably need to talk about that, because you're a unit that does that, the high FTE like that, you know? You just need to be careful of that, so we can talk to Laura about that.
Okay.
Yes? Jolie, you got a question? Nope?
I was just thinking about that because we've had situations where we had a student that's a .50 and then they want to be a student assistant for somebody else, and we find out, oh, they're trying to hire them at a .25, and we're like, whoa, wait a minute,
Right.
we're going to have issues with waiver.
And that's again, well, what Melissa was saying, students will not be honest with you. They will not.
Or they don't think of it as, you know.
And it's a problem. They don't think of
Yeah.
it as a problem. But if they're a grad assistant, the first and foremost, they're students. And they're here for the academic program. But then we want them to have that research experience. We want them to have teaching experience, because we hope they're going to go out in academia and keep on being in academia and so forth, okay? But then again, they cannot keep on trying to find another job to be a student assistant to do clerical work, because it brings up their FTE and so forth. So it's one of those things where when Melissa will come to me or somebody will call me and say, okay, well, we really want to. I mean, Judy and I are on the phone talking to, and we'll pick up the phone and saying, what kind of work is this going to be? Well, it's related to their